Okay, so this is year 10. This is our second week summary, so week 2 summary. You might not be quite at this stage, but this will cover roughly what we've been doing in week 2, year 10 history. So we are still in the medieval medicine period, circa 1250 to 1500, but today we're looking at treatment and then prevention. We've done the ideas. Remember, each of these 4 time periods will always look at the ideas, what people thought made you sick, how they treated it, and also how they prevented it, how they tried to stop themselves from getting sick. Let's dive straight in. We know how important religion was to the medieval general person. Actually, you know what? Not the general person, everyone. Everyone in Britain was a Christian, a Catholic Christian. There were no other options. So it follows, logically, that many of the treatment, cures when you get sick, will relate to religion. They all thought it was God punishing them, which made them sick. So of course the treatments would be linked to religion. We've got things like praying, where you pray to God. We've got lighting a candle, touching the bones of a saint, or you might even go on a pilgrimage to a holy place. So you can say, God, I'm ill, please cure me. Here's a really important wrinkle with that though. Many of these things you paid a bit of money to the church. So you could pray yourself, or you could go to church, give the monks, the nuns, the priests some money, and they would pray for you, which they reckoned would be better because God likes priests and monks better, according to the medieval mind. So again, the church, they kind of like these religious treatments because they're getting some money out of it. We've also got other supernatural treatments. Religious treatments are supernatural. We've also got things like astrology coming into that supernatural bracket. People reckon the stars and planets in alignment could make you ill. So of course they thought, you know what, if I pick herbs or do something at a particular point when the stars are in a particular position, maybe that will cure me or treat me. Okay, what else have we got? We've also got what we might call natural treatments, things linking to the humours, the 4 humours theory. Now the 4 humours theory said if you had too much of one fluid in your body, you'd get sick. So the options here were to bleed yourself or bloodlet, which would bring some of the blood out of your body, rebalance those humours, or what was called purging. Now purging is disgusting. It involves an emetic which makes you sick, so maybe eat a strong herb which makes you throw up, or things like a laxative or enema which of course brings things out the other end. Now that's all about bringing out some of those fluids, those things in your body that are unbalancing your humours, so we call them natural. And of course I've put a little thing here, this is a pot of theriaca. That's an example of one of those common remedies, those natural herbal treatments which were popular amongst the poor people. They couldn't afford maybe to go all the way to touch a holy relic, but they could afford to have some aloe vera, which would be a great simple natural remedy. Who would treat you? We looked at these 3 medical professionals. First up, the physicians. They were the top dogs of medieval medicine. They go to university for 7 to 10 years. They would read the great books of Hippocrates and Galen. Would they see any real patients? Probably not. All of their knowledge was from books, so of course their treatment isn't going to be great. It's going to be based on Hippocrates and Galen and what they've been reading in these books. But they're very expensive, so only the rich can use physicians. Most of the time physicians would just diagnose from a distance rather than actually seeing any people. They'd diagnose you and say, this is what's wrong with you, it's this humour's imbalanced, or it's this particular issue. They might use the urine charts we learnt about before. So further down the line you've got apothecaries. Those of you who remember Romeo and Juliet, he visits an apothecary. An apothecary did 2 things. They would mix up the herbal remedies, they'd sometimes make poisons as well. Now you might get a prescription from a physician to go to an apothecary, so like a medieval chemist in a way, but apothecaries again were still kind of expensive. Not everyone can afford to go to an apothecary for that mixture of herbs and spices. Over here we've got the cheapest of the cheap, the barber surgeons. Yes, they cut hair and did basic surgery. No official training. They learnt on the job. So they would be quite good at what they did. They might be really good at sewing up a wound, at removing an infected arm. Apparently there were some medieval barber surgeons who could remove cataracts from your eyes, which is crazy. But remember, in these days surgery was still dangerous. Blood loss, all that sort of stuff. So you're still possibly going to die if you go to a barber surgeon, even though they're cheap. So those are the 3 medical professionals you may have looked at. Let's now, this is a bit easier this one, look at prevention. Now the difference between these 2 is treatment is curing you when you're sick, prevention is to stop you from getting sick. And we've got some similar things. We've got praying again, saying, please God, please don't make me sick. We've got this one, which links to the miasma theory. This is all about purifying the air around you. So rather than having any bad smells, the miasma theory, making you sick, you've got a pomander, a piece of jewellery with some beautiful herbs, and you can walk around and smell it and feel so special because you've got all those lovely smells coming into your nose. Some people as well would purge themselves even if they weren't sick to make sure their body was nice and balanced. They're a bit worried about digestion. And finally, people think that medieval people were dirty. They really weren't. They washed themselves quite a lot, usually washing hands before and after meals, having baths if they were rich, or swimming in the river if they were poor, but not for the obvious reasons. They're not washing to get rid of germs, they're washing because they believe cleanliness is next to godliness. They believe that being clean makes you holy. So again, that's what they're trying to do to prevent illness. Last bit, we're almost there. Over here I've put care where. I'm not just liking the rhyming, though I do like a bit of a rhyme. Where would you go if you got sick? Well, usually, actually, not a hospital. Most care was done at home by the woman of the household, a mum, a sister, a wife, an auntie, because that's just traditionally the people who would know the remedies, who know some herbs to pick, who would know how to look after you. And also, of course, it's a bit of a sexist society back then where the women do more work than the men in those sort of arenas. Occasionally, though, you might get into a hospital. Now, hospitals were usually, I tell a lie, hospitals were always run by the medieval church. You'd be looked after by monks and nuns. You'd sometimes be sharing a bed, but it would generally be fairly clean and some fairly nice treatment. However, in a medieval hospital, their focus was on care, not cure. They would maybe wheel you into church so you could listen to the service. They might pray for you. They might help you to pray, but they're not doing any fancy treatments because all they're there for is to care for you until you sort out whatever problem you've had with God that's made you get sick. Remember, it's those religious ideas that they support. Hopefully this has helped. This has been a whole host of things you've done, but remember, you can always check in with your history teacher or look at one of the revision guides.